Birthday to
Woo-hoo!
you.
Wow, that was fun. Okay, everyone. My name is Debbie. I am an alcoholic. And for those of you who haven't been here before, Monday's a very special day here. We even have a special name for it. So today, this every Monday is a marvelous Monday. Welcome, everyone. Have an absolutely fantastic meeting. All right. I want to welcome all of you once again to our Threads of Recovery workshop today. I have stated that I am an alcoholic. Do we have any other alcoholics in the room? Wave, smile. Fantastic. Acknowledging God's presence with a moment of silence. I'll follow that with the set aside prayer. Prayer. Lord, help me set aside everything I think I know about you, everything that I think I know about myself, everything that I think I know about my fellows, everything I think I know about my own recovery, for a much needed new experience in myself, you, and my fellows, and a new experience in my own recovery. Help me see the truth. Amen. 1058 Threads of Recovery continues to offer virtual workshops 3 days a week. To be included in our weekly email, send your request to threads1058@gmail.com. This will keep you up to date on all of our workshops. Our group follows the 12 traditions. We stick to our singleness of purpose. We ask that everyone refrain from profanity when sharing and any activity that may be a distraction to the meeting. Please turn your camera on if possible. We'd love to see your smiling face. The seventh tradition states every AA group ought to be fully self supporting, declining outside contributions. The contributions help to cover the group's expenses. But the seventh tradition is more than simply paying for rent and other group expenses. It is both a privilege and a responsibility of the individual groups and members to ensure that our organization at every level remains forever self-supporting and free of outside influences that might divert us from our primary purpose. The monetary amount of each contribution is secondary to the spiritual connection that joins us in unity with AA groups around the world. Seventh tradition contributions can be made using Venmo or by mailing it, and details are in the chat. Thank you, Debbie. This is an open meeting. Open meetings are available to anyone interested in Alcoholics Anonymous's program of recovery from alcoholism. Non-alcoholics are welcome to attend open meetings as observers. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce Bill H., who will be speaking on Finding God as We Understand God, the Who in the 12 Steps. Take it away, Bill.
Who?
Who?
Who? Oh, thank you, Debbie. My name is Bill. I am an alcoholic. So when she said that, she told the truth. She said, my name is Bill, and I am Bill. You can believe anything Debbie G says. She's a very reliable source of information. And we are trying to find God. We are finding God as we understand God in this particular 12-step study of the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book. We are on step 10 today. And that means we're going to talk about continue. We will be talking about continue today. I didn't used to like continue. I wanted to get done. I didn't want to have to continue. I wanted to get out of here, over it, through, graduate. And so, one of the things that has happened in my recovery, which is coming up on 45 years, believe it or not. Happy birthday, Kathleen, by the way. But 45 years ago today, I was in Alcoholics Anonymous and still drinking. I still hadn't got that idea about don't take the first drink. So I won't celebrate my anniversary until another week or so. However, after I stopped drinking, started paying attention to my sponsors, started paying attention to the men in my home group, started paying attention to the men and women in the other meetings I was going to, and started to listen a little bit. It took a long time for continue to sound like good news. And I want to start off with that observation today because there may be one or two in the room with us who don't think continue is that exciting or don't really like the idea of having to continue, because that's what happened for me. I went from having to continue, you might say against my will, to I woke up today and I get to continue. I I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. We get to continue. In other words, we don't have to worry about outgrowing this program. And that turns out to be really good news, and I hope to share some of my enthusiasm for that with you today. As we have been saying, and we begin every one of this particular study with the reading Luis is about to do for us. Appendix 2 in the fourth edition, it's on page 568, the second page of Appendix 2. And Luis, why don't we start with most of us today? Read the page.
Luis Alcoholic. Most of us think this awareness of a power greater than ourselves is the essence of spiritual experience. Our more religious members call it God consciousness. Most emphatically, we wish to say that any alcoholic capable of honestly facing his problems in the light of our experience can recover, provided he does not close his mind to all spiritual concepts. He can only be defeated by an attitude of intolerance or belligerent denial. We find that no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of recovery, but these are indispensable.
Thank you, sir. Luis reads with vigor and enthusiasm. Very nice, very nice. Indispensable. Willingness, honesty, and open-minded. Being willing, being honest, being open-minded. Indispensable for our spiritual awakening. So this is the WHO, the WHO, which is an acronym taken off the willingness, honesty, and open-minded observation, encouragement in the Appendix 2. But you can use those letters, and some people transpose those and end up with how, HOW instead of WHO. How is the process? How and the who are not the same thing. How is the process of the 12 steps? And that process produces our spiritual awakening. What is our spiritual awakening? It becomes a personal relationship with who? God, as we understand God, which is the purpose of the 12 steps. So we got the process of the 12 steps, produce our spiritual awakening, personal relationship with who? God, which is the purpose of the 12 steps. And then we have the presence. Notice the threads of recovery of the P's here. Couldn't help myself, Scott. The presence of who? God in the 12 steps is the power. There's another one. The presence of God is the power of the 12 steps. And so we apply our so-called indispensable, can't live without it. That's what indispensable means. We apply our indispensable willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness in each step. I didn't used to know that. This study has really disclosed that to me. As we go through the steps, though, as we go through the process of working the 12 steps, coming to understand how the 12 steps actually work us, work in us, work through us, work with us, as we come to understand that process, we're careful not to let the how, the process, become the substitute for the who. And I went through periods where I've done that. I think I'm working the 12th step perfectly. I think I'm working the 10th step perfectly. I think I'm working the 4th step, whatever. Turns out I've never worked any step perfectly. I know some people say you work step 1 perfectly. Well, I can work the part of step 1 that says don't take the first drink. I've worked that absolutely 100% for almost 45 years. But as far as there's other things I'm powerless over besides alcohol that I had to come to terms with. And when I deny I'm powerless over anything, my life becomes unmanageable. When I take charge again, when I think I need to be in control. So I don't have to work any of these steps perfectly, and I'm really grateful for that. The who of our spiritual awakening, God, the who of recovery from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. That's what we're recovering from here. A seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, very first sentence in the foreword of the first edition. Who, God, has been present in the book from the very beginning. Back in the doctor's opinion, the doctor talks about the power which pulls chronic alcoholics back from the gates of death. If you're keeping track, that's on page XXVII in the fourth edition. All of these page numbers are from the fourth edition. On page 11 in Bill's story, he's looking at his old drinking buddy, Ebby, sitting there talking to him about getting sober and being sober. And does Bill want to get sober? And Bill makes the observation on page 11, God had done for him, Ebby, what he could not do for himself. Page 24 in the chapter 2, there is a solution. Page 24 talks about, and I quote, this sort of thinking, alcoholic tendencies, beyond human aid. If something is beyond human aid and I need help with it, that's calling out for help from a higher power, beyond human aid, a power greater than myself. Page 25, top of the page, there is a solution in italics. You read all the way down page 25, summarizes what's the solution? Accept spiritual help, bottom of page 25. Page 43, no effective mental defense. His defense must come from a higher power. Hint, hint, who? God, higher power. And of course, on page 45, lack of power. That was our dilemma. It doesn't say no power. Obviously, we have willpower, and I have strong willpower, don't you? It's not no power, it's lack of. It's not enough. Lack of power, that was our dilemma. And then it goes on to say the book's main object, the real purpose of the big book is to enable us to find a power, it says greater than yourself, greater than ourselves, which will solve our problem. I thought for a long time that meant solve my drinking problem, but we have to go to page 62, as I like to remind me and you and everyone else within earshot. Page 62 reminds me my problem is more than drinking. It's selfishness, self-centeredness, self-will run riot. So when I connect page 45 with page 62, the book is helping me with the help of who? The book is helping me overcome self-will run riot. And we have a promise on page 57 about God, the who. Even so has God restored us all to our right minds. So God, as we understand God, the who, the source, the power of our spiritual awakening, has been present in the book from the very beginning. I kind of overlooked it for a while. I ignored it. I really didn't want it to be true. I didn't want help from you. I sure didn't want help from God. What if God didn't do things my way? What if God wanted me to stop doing more than just not drink? In the beginning, I was not that excited about getting help from God, much less asking for help from God. And I can get all the way to step 10 and it says continue, continue. See, there's an implication to continue in step 10 that I may still need help. We're going to find out today whether that's true or not. In this study, we've been finding out, we're 9 steps into it now. We're doing step 10 today. In this study, we're finding out how who, God, guides and directs us in step-by-step growth of our personal relationship, our willingness, honesty, and open-minded relationship with the who, the God of our understanding. If you look at page 59, now would be a good time to turn to page 59. This is, after all, Big Book study. It won't hurt. Page 59, Jane. And you'll go down the page, you'll see the number 10. Step 10. And it says very simply, continued, see, I told you I wasn't making this up, it's right there in the book. Continued to what? You might think, continued to not take the first drink. Or continue to call your sponsor once in a while. Or continue to go to a meeting once in a while. Now, we do need to continue to not take the first drink. We definitely need to continue to go to meetings, and we definitely need to continue calling our sponsor for no other reason they may need the help that day. Keep in mind, whenever you call your sponsor or anybody else, you take their mind off themselves for a while. You are helping them when you call. Mike C., so good to have you back in the room. Well, I have missed you, brother. See, Mike not only attends, he participates. You're looking good. No, it says continue to take personal inventory. Oh, no wonder I didn't want to continue. I thought I was done with, I used to think the inventory was just step 4. I didn't realize the inventory is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's all part of a personal examination, self-examination, looking at myself through God's eyes, not just my eyes, seeing what's blocking me from the help of God I asked for in step 3. Oh, I mean the care of God I asked for in step 3. What's blocking me from the care of God I asked for in step 3? So step 10. Let's just take a deep breath and accept the fact. This is a program of continuing. And see, I didn't know I didn't like that. I didn't even know how much I was pushing back against that idea. I did not know how much I didn't like the suggestion, continue to take personal inventory. And what I finally woke up to, and I'm talking several years into recovery, is I wasn't doing it. I wasn't working step 10 the way it says on page 84. And that's why when we do step 10 in these big book studies, I spend a little extra time on page 84, because when you read it, it's so obvious. It's so simple. There's 4 things to watch out for, and there's 4 things to do. I mean, that's less than the fingers on 2 hands. On page 84, there's 4 things to watch out for and 4 things to do about it. That's a nice summary of the first 9 steps, and that's what it is. By the time we get to page 84 in the big book, step 10, the daily activity includes, you'll find out there's a little more, step 11, but the daily activity of living and growing sober and spiritually, not just living sober, but living and growing sober and spiritually. 4 things to watch out for, 4 things to do, which include the second part of page 59 summary. And when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. I balked at the first part of step 10 because I thought it meant you're always wrong. You're going to spend your whole life admitting you were wrong. It doesn't say that. It says continue to take personal inventory. And we're going to find out later. When I take personal inventory throughout the day, I find many things I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty well. I'm not doing as bad as I used to. Taking personal inventory can be a positive experience. It's not just about the wrong, it includes everything. It does say, though, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And we will see in a little bit the reason we promptly admitted it is so we don't plant new anger, we don't grow a new crop of resentments, we don't go back to living in fear, and we don't become so inconsiderate to other people anymore. So, in terms of our who, are willing, honest, and open-minded, in step 10, you may feel this way today, you may not feel this way today. If you don't feel this way today, ask God to help you be willing enough to continue. You don't have to be 100%, just be willing enough to continue. Be honest enough to take a personal inventory as we go through today, and be open-minded enough to admit when we were wrong. It really is that simple. It is not easy because self-will pushes back against doing this. I don't have time. I can't be going through the day paying attention to what I'm doing all the time. You know how busy I am. You know how important I am. You know how lazy. Oh, I didn't mean to say that. Am I willing enough to keep it simple? Am I willing enough to continue? Am I honest enough to take personal inventory? Am I open-minded enough to admit when we were wrong? Mike C is in the house. Page 84, Mike. Page 84, which keep in mind, page 59 is just a summary of the step. Page 84 and page 85 is where we find the very robust and efficient and thorough step 10. Middle of the page, Mike. This thought brings us.
Hi, family. Alcoholic. My name's Mike C. This thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. We have entered the world of the Spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code.
Thank you, sir. I just have to tell you how many years I think I ignored the whole paragraph. I may have gotten the hint of love and tolerance of others as our code. And of course, I would award myself a gold star on a daily basis. Oh, how loving I am. Oh, how tolerant I am. I'm willing to share your defects so you can improve, but I do it in a gentle voice. I do it in a kind way. I learned not to do it in front of others anymore. I take you off to the side after the meeting and share with you what was wrong with what you shared. And I ask you, do you have a sponsor? Have you talked to her lately? Does she know that she's your sponsor? I counted that kind of behavior as loving and tolerant. I'm not recommending this. Kathleen understands what I'm saying. Yeah, you're exactly. By the way, Kathleen, nice headgear. Very nice. I have a little hat envy going right now. And so we're going to unpack this paragraph for a few minutes. Notice this sentence. We vigorous Are you watching this? It's on page 84 in your book too. We vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. That means we can start working step 10 somewhere during the prior 9 steps. As we cleaned up the past, I used to think it meant, well, I can start doing step 10 during step 8 and 9. Then I got to thinking a little more, and people would talk to me and say, well, you really start cleaning up the past when you become willing to let go and let God and pay a step 6 and 7. Well, maybe this means I can start working step 10 during step 6 and 7. And then I got to thinking, well, I actually started cleaning up the past when I started taking that resentment inventory, because that was the beginning of getting over my anger and asking God to help me with my fear and be more considerate. Maybe I could start doing step 10 during my 4th step. And then somebody said, did you start cleaning up your past the day you stopped drinking? I said, well, I don't know if it cleaned up my past, but it sure stopped making my present so damn bad. My point to you today is this is a very important sentence. And when I sponsor men today, we start doing step 10 pretty early in their recovery. The sooner we learn the habit, the sooner we are willing to become willing, honest, and open-minded enough to accept the self-discipline of daily inventory, the sooner we benefit from self-honesty. So I want to call attention to, we vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. Keep it simple, keep it short, but it's continue. And once we stop taking that first drink, once we come into Alcoholics Anonymous, once we admit I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, everything after that's continue. Everything after that is continue. I woke up today. I asked God to help me not take a drink today. I wake up today in step 1 and deal with it. I'm continuing to be powerless over alcohol, and I'm okay with that. And I'm continuing to ask God to help me not let my life become unmanageable again by me. So it's all continue. So here's the question. Am I willing enough to practice daily inventory during my first 9 steps? That's a question each one of us has to answer for ourselves. I'm not going to tell you what your answer should be or could be. I am suggesting that the book means what it says. So when it says, as we cleaned up the past, that's sometime during those first 9 steps. Mike also made this astonishing declaration when he read. He said, we have entered the world of the Spirit. Oh, I don't know if that's good news or a science fiction movie. I'm not sure how to take that. If world of the Spirit, what's the Spirit look like? Well, I had to get over the idea of figuring all that out. You notice it's a capital S. May have something to do with the who. Capital S may have something to do with God. We have entered. It doesn't say we are now entering. It's like, I've been on this train for a while and just realized I'm on a train. I've been in the world of the Spirit for a little while, didn't know it. I had a hint during step 5 when he says walking hand in hand. This is page 75, promises of step 5. It says walking hand in hand with the Spirit of the universe. So it could have been happening as far back as step 5. A lot of us talk about that feeling when we walk out of that first 4th step, first 5th step. 500-pound weight lifted off our shoulder. My friend Pete says the world went from black and white to technicolor. Lots of different ways, because how do you describe the world of the Spirit? You can't. It's an experience beyond explanation. The fact that we can't explain it doesn't mean it isn't real. The experience, the change in us is real. I wasted a lot of time trying to explain it, trying to pin it down, trying to define it, trying to put it in a box. We have entered the world of the Spirit, sometimes since step 1, sometimes since our first meeting, and then you wake up one day and realize, I've been in the world of the Spirit my whole damn life. Admitting it is like, oh, I've been on this train for a while and just realized I woke up on a train. So the question is simply this. We've entered the world of the Spirit. Accept that as a fact. Am I honest enough now? I'm 9 steps into this thing. Am I honest enough now to try to live God's way of life instead of my self-will run riot? When did I first ask for God's way of life? Step 3, page 63, end of the step 3 prayer, that I can be an example to others of God's power, God's love, and God's way of life. You think there's any similarity between God's way of life, described in the step 3 prayer on page 63, and the world of the Spirit, described on page 84? I think there's a connection. And then there's this. Our next, I'm not making this up, it's on page 84. Our next function is to grow. Our next function is to grow. Doesn't say we're going to grow new hair. Doesn't say we're going to grow bushier eyebrows. Doesn't say we're going to grow 6 feet taller. We're going to grow in understanding. Think about that for a minute. In step 10, our next function is to grow in understanding. There's a huge implication here. The implication is I already have some understanding. We say all the time, I've said it a million times, I don't know what God's will is for me. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. We know a lot about God's. Because we don't know everything about God's will doesn't mean we don't know anything. Grow in understanding includes don't take the first drink today. How about that? Do you understand that? You may not like it today, but do you understand the importance of it if you're an alcoholic? Do you understand the prayer on page 67? God save me from being angry. Do we understand now we are going to get angry? We don't have to live angry. We're going to be angry from time to time, but we don't have to be angry all the time. God save me from being angry. Do we understand the difference between getting angry and living angry? I think we do. Do we understand it? Page 68, self-reliance is good as far as it goes, but it doesn't go far enough. We need to rely on infinite God, it says on page 68, rather than our finite self. Do you understand the difference today between finite self-reliance and infinite God reliance? You don't have to be able to describe it. Do you understand there is a difference? Sure you do. Do you understand the difference between being considerate to her and being inconsiderate, not even thinking about her in the first place, gentlemen? Ladies, do you understand the difference between being totally inconsiderate of what he may be feeling because he's a man, he can't express it because he grew up in the John Wayne culture? Lord have mercy. The difference between being inconsiderate and considerate. You understand the value of honesty. We understand the difference between keeping our secrets and sharing them with at least one other trustworthy person that we learned to do in step 5. Understand the difference between coming to believe, having faith, and trusting in God, and just going back trying to do it my way again. Our next function is to grow in understanding. When you pause and reflect on your recovery so far, whether you're here in your first week, your first month, your first year, you're celebrating 38 years or whatever, we have more understanding about ourselves, what's good for us, what isn't good for us, how much help we need from God, how much trouble we get into if we try to do all this stuff on our own. We understand more than we did when we got here. And what step, this to me is one of the most important parts of step 10. Our next function, that means it's part of our purpose, which ties it back to page 77, which we talked about last time. Our real purpose, the fact we're walking the face of the earth as recovering, sober, alcoholic men and women. This is not trivial. Our real purpose in God's eyes is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. That's part of our purpose. You can draw a straight line from, it might even be a thread of recovery between page 77 and page 84. What I did for years, and I didn't know I was doing it, I treated page 84 as optional. I treated it as a worst case insurance policy. If things get bad enough, I'll do what it says on page 84. And I didn't even know I was dismissing the opportunity for a huge part of my spiritual growth on a daily basis. I was not only dismissing growing with the who, I was dismissing using the how to grow with the who. Because page 84 is a huge part of a how. Honest, open-minded, and willing. So before we move into the second half of the session today, I'm going to ask you 3 questions that are not in the handout. And that's assuming I can find them. It just came to me this morning when I was looking over the outline. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Are you sober today? Are you sober today? And if you're not, that's okay. Just stay still. Are you willing to let others help you today? Are you trying to let the God of your understanding, a power greater than yourself, help you today? If I want these 3 things to be true in my life today, to be sober, to be willing to let other people help me, and try to let the God of my understanding help me, if I want those 3 things to be true in my life today, I will be willing to continue. my spiritual awakening. To practice this daily inventory. Practice means work at it. It does not mean do it perfectly. Go out on the floor and shoot some free throws. Go out on the tennis court and hit some balls against the rack. Practice. Practice. Want to grow in the world of the Spirit. Want to grow in understanding. So in step 10, I learned to ask God to help me. Watch this carefully, because here's what we're going to talk about for the next 10 minutes. In step 10, I learned to ask God, help me not do the next wrong thing, which is a setup for doing the next right thing. Jamie, are you with us to read today, Jamie?
Yes, I'm here.
I'd like you to read that paragraph again on page 84. Only begin with, right in the middle of the paragraph, it says, this is not an overnight matter. Can you begin there and read the rest of that paragraph again?
Not an overnight matter. Yes, Jamie C. Grateful recovered member of this program, Alcoholics Anonymous. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code.
Thank you so much. So keep those 4 things in mind. Selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Those are the 4 major categories of things we dealt with in the first 9 steps. Now, just for a minute, turn back to the top of page 83. 83 comes right before 84. It's real easy to find in the book. Look how we ended up step 9. Top of page 83. Talks about, Kathy was so excited about this paragraph last week. Long period of reconstruction ahead. Your words are still echoing in my ears, my dear. And it suggests at the bottom of that first paragraph on page 83, we clear the house with the clean house, not clear the house. Clear the house is a Las Vegas term, Al. I'm sorry. Clean house with the family. Asking each morning in meditation, notice that morning meditation can start during step 9. Don't have to wait to step 11. We'll talk more about that next time. Morning meditation that our Creator show us. Because I won't figure this out on my own. Our Creator show us the way. Here's some more of God's way of life. We asked for God's way of life in step 3. Here's some more of it. Creator show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love. Now, some of you may not make these connections, and I accept that. And some of you may say, you're forcing it, and I accept that. But, it's only going to take about 65 or 70 seconds, so just bear with me. Look at the comparison between what God is asking us to learn to do on page 83. That is, treat not just the family, but everybody with love, kindliness, tolerance, and patience. That would be doing the next right thing. That would even be the next right thing. Even before we do, we have to be. So I'm not going to do love if I can't be loving. I can't do kindly if I can't be kindly. I can't do tolerance if I can't be tolerant. I sure aren't going to do patience if I can't be patient. So God says on page 83, the big book says, part of God's way of life, the who, learn to be loving, kindly, tolerant, and patient. Turn the page 84. Oh, here's what to watch out for. To be loving, wanting God's best for them, and remember our code now we read this morning or this afternoon or this evening, love and tolerance of others is our code. Love is part of our code. And love in this context does not mean romantic love necessarily. It means wanting God's best for the other person. And you have to ask God to help with that instead of being selfish. I don't want God's best for you if I'm so selfish. All I want you to do is what I want you to do. And I want you to stop doing what you're doing, like complaining about my drinking. I think there's a connection between being loving and not being selfish. Kindliness, no matter how much they tempt me not to be. And I'm dishonest about that. Well, you didn't deserve to be treated kindly. You didn't earn it. You were naughty, nasty. You shamed me. You embarrassed me. You let me down. You disappointed me. Because my perception is you don't treat me kind. I'm going to use that as an excuse not to do what page 83 said. Ask God to help me be kind anyway. And to do otherwise is being dishonest. To do otherwise is turning down the help I'm offered by the higher power. That's dishonesty at the deepest level. Tolerance, another word for forgiveness. Meet them where they are. Let them be the person they are today. You may not want to lend them money. You may not want to invite them to your birthday party. When I live in tolerance with forgiveness, I'm living pretty free of resentment. And how do I find out I'm not being forgiving and tolerant and suffering from the poison of resentment? That's why it's continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. And patience. Trusting God to help me deal with uncertainty. Not just patient with them, patient with everything I don't know and want to. Anybody read the news lately? Anybody got some uncertainty? One hand is sufficient, Kathy. No, you alcoholics are so excessive. You have to overdo everything. And she cheers me on. Lord have mercy. Trust God with the uncertainty. Do the best you can to keep your circle, your friends, your people, the people you run into in the family, your people run into in the parking lot, the people you run into at the church or the library or the synagogue or Home Depot. Love, kindliness, tolerance, and patience. On page 83 is one of the summaries in the big book of the next right thing. But to be positioned to do that, we have to also let God help us stop being the next wrong thing. And that's why we continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Then Jamie read, when these crop up. Is the word when in your book or is it if? It's when in mine. However, I read it as if for maybe 20 years. You know, if I ever do experience a resentment again, I'll deal with it. If I ever feel selfish again, I'll ask somebody to help me. But it's so unlikely, I probably don't even have to worry about it. I'm wearing a flower tie today. Some of you got my picture of the hyacinths coming up this morning, the promise of spring. Well, guess what else is coming up? We got the little shoots of hyacinths coming up. They broke through the ground last Saturday. Guess what else is coming up? Starts with, it's a four-letter word, starts with W. Weed. Yeah, weed, Briston. Weed in the garden is a four-letter word. Step 10 is spiritual weeding. Step 10 is spiritual If we want the lovely flowers of page 83, love, kindness, tolerance, and patience, to be who we are, not just do, but to become who we are. If we want those lovely flowers growing in our character, you have to weed the garden every day. Because selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear will crowd out my hyacinths. You with me so far? And so when these crop up, and they will, they do, we're human, we're not perfect. We have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. We have not recovered from being human. When these crop up, four simple things. Four simple things. We ask God at once to remove them. Are you willing to do that today? See, you knew I'd tie willing, honest, and open-minded into this. Watch carefully. We ask God at once to remove them. Are you willing to do that today for your sake? To grow in understanding, to live in the world of the Spirit, to benefit. You want to make the promises on page 63 come true? You want to make the promises on page 75 continue to come true? You want to make those promises we read last time on pages 83 and 84 continue to come through? Then continue to do step 10. When selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear crop up, first thing we do, we ask God at once to remove them. And what does that once mean? Right now. Thank you. Now, you may choose not to do it right now, but I pay the price when I postpone. When I postpone asking God for help, when I postpone admitting I need to ask God for help, how do I know I need God's help? When I'm feeling selfish, dishonest, resentful, or afraid, which is often. Ask God at once, help me. Doesn't require an entire rosary at that point. Nothing wrong with doing a rosary, but if, God help me is a good beginning. And then he says, we discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone. Now there's an if. The more we practice step 10, the more in the habit I get as I go through my day. And by the way, this does not say wait until the evening to do it. That comes out of the 12 and 12, which was written several years later, and it's one of the ways he describes doing step 10. And I was one of those people, I'm going to latch on to that. I don't have to do this all day long. The 12 and 12 says it's okay just to wait and do it in the evening. Nonsense. Please don't use the 12 and 12 to rewrite the big book. That was not what he meant. The big book is the step work that tells us how to work the step and get the greatest benefit from it. 12 and 12 are essays, observations, and they can be read with choices that replace what the work is in the big book. Problem is, I don't know of one thing in the 12 and 12 that improves upon the big book in terms of how to work the step and when to work the step. And so be very careful. If I want to benefit, and I know this sounds radical to some of you, you sound like you're on your soapbox. Yes, I am. But I bought the soap, it's my box. Do you want to benefit or not? How many days did I go full of selfish, dishonest, resentful, and fear, get to the end of the day, damn near needed a drink? 10, 12, 14 years sober. Boy, a drink would be good because I've got all this pressure built up inside. And then I do my little half, 10th step at night, which in the big book's actually the beginning of step 11. We'll get there next time. And wonder why I'm not getting the happy, joyous, and free that other people seem to have. I'm encouraging you. The book says what it says for a reason, if we want to benefit. We discuss them with someone immediately. That means now. It does not mean this evening. And make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone. Most of my 10th step work catches it before I harm someone. I can recognize selfish. I can recognize dishonest. I can recognize resentment. I can sure as hell recognize fear before it comes out and spills over on somebody else. Didn't happen all at once, but I catch most of that stuff before I ever harm anyone today. And so when I do harm someone, boy, do I know it. And I still don't like to make amends, but I like to get done with the amend because I feel so much better afterwards, because when I make an amend for something I did do wrong, motivated by untreated selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, or fear, I always feel so much better after I make the amend for the same reason we talked about in step 8 and 9. The guilt, regret, remorse, shame, fear, and pride melt away. Notice the urgency in these. We ask God at once. We discuss them with someone immediately. We make amends quickly. We discuss them with someone immediately, make amends quickly is honesty. I don't talk myself out of it. I don't pretend it didn't happen. I don't call that special person other than my sponsor, who I knows will co-sign my you-know-what. We've all got one of them. Some of us have a whole tribe. I don't go to those people anymore. And then the fourth thing, we resolutely, that means whether you want to or not, turn our thoughts to someone we can help. You may or may not make a phone call. You may or may not go down to the Salvation Army and see if you can pick up a new sponsee. But the very action, the very choice of turning my thoughts to someone I can help. Say a prayer. I had a friend stuck in Dubai for a week. They got back to St. Louis last night. We've been praying for them for a week. I didn't have any trouble turning my thoughts to someone I could help this week. I was praying for my friend and his wife all week long. What happens when I turn my thoughts to someone I can help? I'm not thinking about me. And who knows? I may receive a little guidance from God. Simple little paragraph. Simple little paragraph. Almost as simple as step 6 and step 7. Half a page on page 76. Easy to dismiss. Page 84 is kind of like that. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear all day long. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone. We resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Willing to ask God at once, honest to discuss them and make amends quickly, open-minded to turn our thoughts to someone we can help. You got who at work in step 10 because of who at work in me in step 10. And then, of course, we get to our code. We had our purpose on page 77. Now we have a code. Love and tolerance of others is our code. So I have a purpose, page 77, to become a maximum service to God and the people about me. Look back at page 15 in page 77. Bill talks about what became our purpose way back on page 15 in his story. I didn't see that at the time, but Bill talks about what became our purpose on page 15 of his story. And we have a code, love and tolerance of others. That's mentioned on page 19. In the chapter, there is a solution. It's like all of a sudden in step 9 and 10, we discover our purpose and our code. And then you're reading a book one day and you realize, well, damn, that's been there all along. Quick study, slow learner. That's me. But that's okay. That's why it's a book of repetition. If I don't pick it up on page 15, I'll pick it up on page 77. If I don't pick it up on page 19, I'll pick it up on page 84 and other pages. Those aren't the only places. So reflecting back on step 3 for a minute, I let who, remember in step 3, we asked for God's power, God's love, and God's way of life, page 63. I let who, God's power, enable me to be willing to try to live in our purpose. I seek who, God's love, to enable me to honestly try to love and tolerate others. And I also seek who, God's way of life, to be open-minded to my need for God's help to do so. Let's see, Kathleen, going to read the promises, and we have ceased fighting anything or anyone. Could you read that next paragraph, please, Kathleen?
I forgot to unmute her, sorry. Here you go, Kathleen.
Okay, page 83.
Bottom of page 84, we have ceased fighting anything or anyone.
Kathleen, alcoholic. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For by this time, sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effect on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we had been placed in a position of neutrality, safe, protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. That is our experience. That is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition.
Powerful stuff. Thank you, Kathleen. We have ceased fighting anything or anyone. That includes me. I've stopped fighting me. What a miracle. You can look back at pages 62 and 66. See examples of this. Sanity will have returned. React sanely and normally. There's an answer to step 2 right there. Daily reprieve contingent on our spiritual condition. Remember Jim's story, page 35? He failed to enlarge his spiritual life. Well, let's not do page 35. Let's do page 84. How can I best serve thee? Whose will not mine be done? Kathy S., could you read the next paragraph? It's easy to let up.
Hi, everybody. Kathy, grateful recovering alcoholic. It is easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We're headed for trouble if we do. for alcohol is a subtle foe. We are not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Every day is a day we must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities. How can I best serve thee? And thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It is the proper use of the will. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And so we have proof we don't lose our will. We don't become the hole in the donut. We just get God to help us guide and direct our will, which the purpose of the book said so back on page 45. It talked about it on page 62. First of all, we had to quit playing God, it didn't work, and so on and so forth. Okay, we got about 6 or 7 more minutes. Here's a few observations on willing, honest, and open-minded. The threads of recovery in step 10. Who, God, has become so much a part of how. They blend together. Sue and I were talking about this the other day. I can stop harming myself or others. I'm not saying the how replaces the who, but just sort of becomes natural by step 10. And I'm willing to trust who. I'm willing to trust God in adversity. So I can be grateful to God in all things. I'm honest enough to see my shortcomings now as opportunities for spiritual growth. That may sound corny, but it's true. I'm open-minded enough to not let up on my spiritual program of action with who, and I do understand that to rest on my laurels would not be willing, honest, or open-minded. I am really grateful today for who, God's power, God's love, and God's way of life. I'm grateful for it. I don't feel entitled, and I definitely don't feel complacent. The price of obedience. Thy will, not mine, be done. The not mine is don't do the next wrong thing. Thy will be done, we'll talk about next time in step 11. We learn to stop doing the next wrong thing in 10 so we can have a better chance of doing the next right thing in step 11. Thy will, not mine, be done on page 85. There's a certain obedience that goes along with that. The price of that obedience is much less than the cost of disobedience. There's always something I can do to help others. People say, I don't know what I can do. There's nothing I can do. That's not true. I can pray for them. I can pray to God to help me encourage them. I can pray to God to be an example for them. I can pray to be a listening ear. Sometimes they just have to show up and be a presence. I wouldn't go to the hospital for years because I didn't know what to say. To visit someone, I learned. Go and sit with them. Hold their hand if you're not transferring germs. Wear a mask. Woody Allen said it. The great spiritual guru, Woody Allen. 90% of life is showing up and being there. There's always something I can do. At least pray that God's will be done, that God keep them safe. We love others, part of our code. We want God's best for them and tolerate others, accept them as they are, not as I think they should be. I'm willing to be of service. Thy will, not mine, be done, because I pretty much abandoned my right to myself. I know a lot about what's good for me today, but God knows better. I'm honest enough to see that God never wastes adversity. I grow spiritually in adversity when I ask God for help. I'm open-minded enough to realize that our purpose and our code are gifts. The more I learn about the power of our purpose on page 77 and our code on page 84, the more I realize what wonderful, powerful gifts they really are. When I continue to try to live in the purpose and practice the code. I'm willing, honest, and open-minded enough to grow in the world of the Spirit and be grateful for continue and not graduate. And finally, purpose plus code. Here, a little spiritual arithmetic, a little spiritual addition to end the session. Purpose plus code equals, don't do the next wrong thing so I can be and do the next right thing. Next time, step 11, willing, honest, and open-minded enough to improve our conscious contact. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Bill.
Wahoo!
Awesome. Just awesome.
I like that.
That is gorgeous.
Isn't that a dandy?
That is. Ooh.
Springtime in the Ozarks.
All right. Everyone can now unmute, and we thank Bill.
Many thanks, Bill.
Thank you,
Bless
Bill.
Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bill.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Bill.
Well done, William.
Great job.
Wow.